Hi, welcome to the series of Jaspersoft reports. In this video, we are going to see the ins and outs of Crosstab component in Jaspersoft Design Studio. The agenda for this session is, firstly, I will walk you through what is Crosstab and Crosstab component. Then we take a look on what are the features of Crosstab component. And finally, we will see an example on how we can create a summary report using Crosstab component. What is a Crosstab? A crosstab is an intersection of rows and columns. We can also call crosstab as pivot table. What is a crosstab component in the studio? A crosstab component in the studio is a basic element from palette section. Let us have a look at some of the features of crosstab component. A crosstab component is a ready-to-use template. It is generally used to aggregate the data at row level and column level. One of the major advantages of crosstab components over a table is that we can aggregate the data at row level and column level. Whereas in a table component, we can aggregate the data only at column level. We generally keep the crosstabs in the summary band of a report. Let us consider the scenario of products. Using crosstab component, a user can answer questions such as, what are the total Q3 store sales of all products for Akron brand? What are the total store sales of all quarters for Excel brand? Now it is time to create a report using Crosstab component. I am considering the scenario of products. So in this demonstration, firstly, we will create the summary grid using Crosstab component. Then we walk through some of the advanced features of row groups, column groups, and measures. And then we will see what are the variables involved while creating the Crosstab component. Create a blank report from file. Create a blank report from file, new Jasper report. Select the blank A4 from the reports templates wizard. Click next. Now let us save this report under reports folder of Jasper Reports 2021 project folder. I am taking the report name as Crosstab component quarterly store sales of products by brand name. By the report name itself, we can understand that we are going to find aggregation of store sales by quarter and by product. Quarterly is the column level aggregation and products is the row level aggregation. Products and brand name are the two fields from the product table, and quarter is the field name from the time by the time by day table. And store sales is the numeric value taken from the store sales fact 1997 table. So let us save this report first. From the data adapter dropdown, select the FoodMart database. And now let's copy this query from the PG admin SQL editor to the report SQL editor. Copy it and paste it here. Click on next. Let us push all the data fields from left side window to the right side window. Click on next. Let's skip providing group by field for now. So click on next, then click on finish. As I mentioned, we generally keep the crosstab components in the summary band. So let us remove the unnecessary bands for this demonstration. From the outline view of the report, multi-select the bands which we want to delete. For example, here in this demonstration, I am going to remove title band, page header band, column header band, detail band, column footer band, and page footer band. So right click on them, click on delete option. Now we have only the summary band. From the palette, select the Crosstab component, drag it onto the summary band. So when we drag the Crosstab component onto the summary band, the pop-up shows that to choose the data set. We can create Crosstab component based on a subdata set, or we can directly use the main data set of the report. Unlike a table component, it is not necessary to have a new data set created for the Crosstab component. So let's go with the default option here, which is main data set. So click on next. Then we are going to aggregate the store sales by quarter first. So quarter will be the column group here. So select the quarter here and push it onto the right side window. Let's go with the default values for these, for the column. Click on next. And in the rows group, we are going to find the aggregation based on brand name first, then based on the product name. So select brand name and push it to the right side window. Similarly, select the product name and push it onto the right side window here. So click next. So the measure here is the store sales, where we see the aggregations by column level, by column group and by row groups. So select the store sales and apply a summation function on this. So by default, when we push a numeric field from the right side window to left side window to the right side window, it takes the calculation as count. Let us change by clicking this drop down here from count to sum. Then click on next. Let us go with the default layout here. Later, if we want to change this layout, we can come back to the styles and change this properties. So click on finish. We can see the element shows up on the summary band. Let's quickly adjust the width of this component to the width of the summary band. So select the component, click on the fit width band here. Adjust the height of the crosstab and remove the empty space by double clicking on the summary band. Save the report and let's quickly preview and run this report. Now we can see the product details are aggregated at row level and column level. The row groups here are Akron and the product names like Akron City and Akron. The first one is the brand name, then the product name. And on the column levels, we can see the quarters here. So this 185, 96, 148, these are the column level aggregations. And here at the end of the column, we can see 307.998 and 306.24. These are the aggregations at row level. And if we scroll down, we can see the total aggregation by row group and column group here at the end, which is 4871.02. So this is how we can create a summary grid. So basically, this is a grid, and this is on top of rows and columns, and this in the middle. These are the intersection points of rows and columns, and here we can see the aggregation by rows and columns. So this is how we can create a summary grid using Crosstab component in Jaspersoft reports. So let us quickly format this report here. So like Crosstab, like a table component, a Crosstab component also gets its own outline view. To get that, simply double click on the Crosstab component. Then we can see a separate outline view is generated for the Crosstab component. So here we can see the styles that we can apply on the Crosstab elements. Basically the text fields, Then the data set that is being used by this Crosstab component. For this demonstration, it is the main data set. So you can see the report name and data set name is same here. Then the core node structure for the Crosstab component is Crosstab here. So expand this Crosstab node, we can see what operations or what elements, what options are available with the Crosstab component as we expand this Crosstab. We can work with crosstabs, and we can work with row groups, column groups, measures here. So let's quickly look at this row groups and column groups. So select these row groups here and look at the properties of this one. So expand this row groups node. We have grouped our data at row level by brand name and by product name. So select brand name and have a look at these properties here. So the name is taken as brand name and the total position is at the end. This option we selected while we creating the row group, and by default the order is taken as ascending, and the expression as brand name here, which is of string type, and some other additional properties related to row, like position of the row and width of the row. Similarly, the same properties we can see for product name here. And for the column groups, it will be similar to the row group properties. So just select the quarter here and look at these properties. The name is taken as quarter and the total position for this column is at the end here. And the bucket properties that we can see here, by default the order is ascending and the expression is taken as quarter and the type for this is string. And if you look at the measures, we can see what is the calculation type we applied while selecting the measure, which is store sales in this case. And the expression is taken as store sales and the class of this variable is taken as big decimal. So these are the properties of each row group and column group, and one important part of the Crosstab is measures, and these are the properties. Now let us expand these columns by clicking on this empty cell here. So expand this header cell, and we want to get the full information of the product name. Right now it is streaming. So let's select this one and adjust the width to this one. So it is not adjusting. So select the field name here, right click on it, then click on this arrange in container, then free layout. Right click again, then arrange in container, free layout, and then this one here. So the easiest way to adjust the width of these cells is updating the widths of particular cells or columns from the properties. So I have this one selected here, which is the product name. So from the product name, select the header of this one and go to the cell property and adjust the width from 60 to 120. Save the report. Now we can see something beautiful on the report output. So let's change the report from landscape to portrait. That we can do by selecting this report and from the properties, click on this edit page format and then change the page orientation from portrait to the landscape. So click on OK, then increase the width of the Crosstab component to get a better output when we run the report. So save this, run the report again. So we can see the product details are summarized at row level and column level, and the row groups of the row groups here are brand name, then the product name, and the column group here is quarter, and the aggregation is based on store sales. So these 185, 96 are the column level aggregations, and at the end we can see these are the column level aggregation. That means if we sum up this 90, 40, and 90, 87, the sum should be equals to this one, and for this 185, the sum of 90 and 95 should be equals to 185. So this way we can create row groups and column groups and summarize the detailed data as a crosstab. Now what else we have? We have crosstab variables. Let's have a look into these. So if you want to modify something, so basically whenever we create a crosstab component in Jaspersoft Design Studio, the actual fields will be converted into variables, and that variables we can see in the expression editor by clicking any of the text field from this design mode. For example, to look at, I'm going to look at what are the generated variables by the crosstab. So by double clicking on any of these variables here, we can see them. So I'm taking a $V product name here. So double click on this one, and in the expression editor on the left side window, click on this crosstab one and maximize this window. We can see what are all the generated variables of the crosstab. So basically brand name, product name, quarter, these are the fields from the data set. But as soon as we create a crosstab, those fields will be converted as crosstab variables, and uh, we can we can see all the list of the other generated variables for the crosstabs in the expression editor here. For example, these are the store sales measures variable. This is a direct variable, and this is the variable based on the brand name. Similarly, store sales measure based on quarter. And if you look at this, we can see this particular variable, which is store sales measure, is based on both brand name and quarter. This is the first row group, and this is the one single column group that we taken for the demo. And this is only based on product name, this variable, and this variable is only based on the only column group that we have in the demonstration, and this is by product name and quarter. So in a nutshell, whenever we create a crosstab component in the studio, the fields will be converted as crosstab variables, and the variables will be consumed by the crosstab to get the summary view of the uh, uh, aggregations. So just click on cancel. Now what if you want to uh, what if you want to not to have this row level aggregations or column level aggregation? We can perform delete of the unnecessary groups here. For example, if you want to delete this uh, column level grouping, we can do that by going this particular row group and selecting it, and in the properties, if we select this total position from n to none, we can see this is disappearing here. So let us keep it, but let us see how we can delete this one. Here is from the column groups, select the quarter and select none here. So this will remove the uh, row level summation, and this will remove the column level summation here. Now, so save the report and preview it. We can see that the row level summation and column level summations are removed from the output, but at the end we can see that the whole aggregation by each column is displayed. So this is how we can aggregate the data as a summary for a detailed report of a product. So this brings us to the end of the session on the Crosstab component. I hope you are a little clearer on what we saw in this video. Before we wrap up, let's quickly have a recap of what we have seen so far on this concept. So we have firstly seen what is Crosstab and Crosstab component in the studio, and we have seen some of the features of Crosstab component, and finally we have seen how we can summarize a report using Crosstab component, and we have also walked through uh, some of the advanced options of Crosstab, such as row groups, column groups, and how these variables for Crosstabs are generated while we create it. So that's all for this video. Thank you for watching. Let's get straight in it for more updates on the Jaspersoft stuff. Thank you.